Good afternoon, everyone. I am Yolanda Broom with Corporate Environmental Risk Management and the 2021 Chair of the Membership Committee for the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Chamber, we thank you for joining us today, and we welcome you to our very first Power Lunch event. Today's event is made possible by our generous sponsors, Kaiser Permanente, AT&T, and Georgia Power. Part of our mission at the Chamber is to support you, our business members, and our local economy by providing education and connection. The Membership Committee works to support this mission by hosting several events each year, including this event, the Power Lunch Series. Throughout this lunch series, you can expect to hear from our community leaders, heads of our educational institutions and workforce development organizations, local elected officials, and small business experts. We hope you will leave each Power Lunch more informed about DeKalb County and armed with knowledge that will help you run your business. And we hope that you will share this information with others. This first Power Lunch is co-hosted by the Chamber's Economic Development Committee, and I am honored to introduce Jeff Taylor, Chair of the Economic Development Committee.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Jeff Taylor, and I'm the CEO of MedCura Health, but I'm also chair of the Economic Development Committee for the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce. Now, the Economic Development Committee works with the county to recruit and retain industry, to advocate, partner, and engage to ensure a vibrant business community in DeKalb County. One of our economic development partners is the Perimeter Community Improvement Districts, and I'm honored to introduce Ann Hanlon, Executive Director of the Perimeter CID. As Executive Director, Ann is in charge of the organization's daily operations as well as its investments in transportation and infrastructure. The CIDs have an annual operating budget of over $8 million. Now, previously, Ann was the Executive Director for the North Fulton CID for 13 years, beginning when it was a startup. Prior to entering the CID space, Ann served as Senior Program Specialist at the Atlanta Regional Commission. She began her career in the private sector as a research and development analyst with Press Ganey and Associates, a healthcare consulting firm in South Bend, Indiana. Ann was honored as the Woman of the Year by the Women's Transportation Seminar Atlanta chapter in November 2016. In April 2015 and then again in 2017, Governor Nathan Deal appointed Ann to the board of directors for the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, where she serves on the projects and planning committees. Ann was named as a notable Georgian by Georgia Trend magazine in 2017, one of the Atlanta Business Chronicle's Women Who Mean Business in 2015, and as one of Georgia Trend's magazine 40 Under 40 in 2012 and 2018. In 2021, she is included among a prestigious group of leaders in James Magazine's Most Influential Georgians. In 2019, she served as chair of the board of directors for the County for Quality Growth as the council's first female chair. We are grateful to have Ann with us today, and without any further delay, Ann, I'm going to give you the virtual microphone.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Good morning. I really appreciate that. And good morning, everybody out there. Really happy to see you. I've been very busy, actually, with DeKalb things today. Not that this group is not important, but earlier today, I was speaking to a group of kindergartners from the DeKalb County public school system. I'm a volunteer with the public schools. My children are both in DeKalb County schools, and I volunteer to help onboard kids into our school system. So I'm having a day of DeKalb, which is pretty fun. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Ann Hanlon. I'm the executive director of the Perimeter Community Improvement Districts. I've served in this role for about 4 years. Prior to that, I ran a similar organization up in North Fulton, but I'm really happy to be home in DeKalb now. I've lived in DeKalb for 15 years. So I'm really proud to call DeKalb County home. As I mentioned, my husband and I live in DeKalb. We go to church in DeKalb. We send our girls to the DeKalb County public school system. So I am both personally and professionally very, very invested in the success of our community. And I'm really, really excited to be with you at the chamber this morning to talk a little bit about economic development and specifically the role that CIDs can play in economic development in DeKalb County. So I'm going to run through a quick PowerPoint, and then I'm going to leave the floor open for any questions at the end. Let's see if I can do this. All right, here we go. So as I mentioned, with the Perimeter CID, quickly, for those of you who may not be completely aware, I wanted to just give you sort of a quick 101 on what a CID is. So a community improvement district is a special purpose tax district that is allowed for in the state of Georgia by the Georgia Constitution. There are several CIDs in DeKalb County, the Perimeter CID, there's CIDs in Tucker and Stone Mountain and over near Stonecrest, and all of these are playing a role in economic development in the county. So we are governed by a board of directors. I'm going to flip from this slide, I'm going to flip to the next one because this is our DeKalb board. We are a little bit different in the world of CIDs. We're a little different because we're actually two CIDs under one roof. A community improvement district legally must be contained within one county because your county is the governing body that you pay your property taxes to. So you legally must be contained within one county. And we, in the perimeter area, the DeKalb Perimeter CID was founded in 1999 by a group of commercial property owners around Perimeter Mall. And, you know, they basically got together back then. There were traffic problems back then, too, believe it or not, back in the 90s. And they got together and, you know, they just said, we want to do something to create like an economic development engine that also has the resources to help solve transportation problems. So they banded together. They all voluntarily agreed to assess themselves an additional tax. So above and beyond what these property owners around Perimeter Mall were currently paying to DeKalb County, they voluntarily agreed to assess themselves an additional tax above and beyond that. And then those mills, those dollars would be funneled to the community improvement district and could be used at the board's discretion to invest in transportation projects. So that's the basic model of a CID. And every CID in the state of Georgia by law must be governed by a board of directors of its members. I often tell people it's not unlike a homeowners association. You know, everybody pays in, but then there's a board of directors who's elected and they get to decide where the money's invested. So in our case in particular at Perimeter, one of the reasons we're unique is because the Fulton DeKalb County line runs like right through the Perimeter market. If you're familiar with Perimeter, there's an REI store and a La Madeline and a Goodwill store. And right there in that shopping center is the Fulton DeKalb County line. So we are governed by two boards of directors. This is our DeKalb board. So we have 10 folks who are on the board. You may recognize some of these names from the corporate community or folks that are involved in the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce. And these are the folks that provide they're with the largest property owners in the district. So remember, it's not necessarily the business owners, it's the property owners. Sometimes they're one and the same. And they represent our big owners and provide us with counsel on how to invest our dollars. Here's our staff. We run a lean organization. You know, the goal at any CID should always be to run a lean staff because the goal is that most of the money generated through that tax should be invested into projects, not into overhead. So we run, we spend about 18% of our revenues on running overhead. We always try to keep it below 20% so that at least 80% of our revenue generated can be invested back into our infrastructure. Everything else is outsourced. So I'm going to run you through. So Jeff and Yolanda, please ping me now if I'm going too fast, or anyone can interrupt me with questions. But I'm going to run through a litany of the big infrastructure projects that are affecting all of DeKalb, but definitely affecting the Perimeter market because there's just a lot going on, even though it's COVID, and even though we've all been home for a majority of the last year. On our laptops and in our sweatpants, all of these big, huge projects are still moving forward and they're very impactful to the entire region. So I wanted to make sure by the time you leave this call today, you are at least a little bit versed in all of them. So what you see here is actually not in DeKalb, but it will connect to DeKalb. So this is the managed lane project that the State Department of Transportation is building up and down the Georgia 400 corridor. So what you see is the map of where that will be from the North Springs MARTA station all the way north to Forsyth County on Georgia 400. What is a managed lane? These are going to be elevated toll lanes. So like brand new lanes that will be constructed, elevated above the current interstate system, and you have to pay a toll to get on these. So this will be the next segment of a larger regional network of these types of lanes that have been built out all over Metro Atlanta. So for those of you that travel around the region, of course, the first segment that was constructed was a little different, but it was along the I-85 corridor coming down from Gwinnett County. It was not a new set of lanes, but the state took the existing lanes, the HOV hot lanes, and converted them to toll lanes. So if you have a Peach Pass, you can hop on. If you live in Gwinnett, you have a Peach Pass, you can hop on, drive to downtown Atlanta, pay your toll, whatever it happens to be that day. That was the first segment. The second segment that opened up was south of the city in Henry County on the I-75. That was a brand new lane, but instead of being a new lane up above your head, elevated, it was down on the ground, and it was like in the middle of the existing highway. So if you're like me, and my family all lives down in South Georgia, that's where I was born and raised, and I make that trip a lot. I leave Metro Atlanta and I drive down to South Georgia and I hop on those lanes in Henry County and fly and pay my toll. That was the second segment. The third segment of this bigger network that is slowly coming together is in Cobb County. Those lanes are on I-75 going north and south from Cobb, from 285 all the way up towards Cherokee County. Again, a little different product altogether. So if the one on 85 is at grade on the road, and the one down in Henry County is like barrier separated in the middle of the road, the project out on 75 in Cobb is the first time now as a region that we've seen the elevated structures, the big elevated lane that goes above the highway. A little different because that one is reversible. So in the morning, the idea is in the morning, if you're coming from the big northern suburbs coming into Atlanta, and it is open southbound in the morning, and then it reverses midday, and then you can get on it and go back northbound to go home in the afternoon. So very interesting. I've heard that people over in Cobb call it the magic carpet ride because it's taken so much time off of people's commutes. It has been super successful. So the next phase after that, I'm kind of working my way to DeKalb. The next section after that will be this 400 segment that's going to be built up and down Georgia 400. It'll be 2 lanes, but for the most part, it'll be 2 lanes in either direction. So not reversible. 2 permanent lanes going southbound and 2 lanes coming northbound. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to the next slide. This is really the biggest one that is the most affecting of DeKalb and all of our businesses in DeKalb. This is the top end 285 managed lanes program. So what you see is now a new network that is going to connect. If this will sort of be one of the final puzzle pieces, if the whole jigsaw puzzle is slowly being put together of these new toll lanes all over Metro Atlanta, 85, 75 north, 75 south, 400 north. This will be sort of one of the final pieces that clicks into the jigsaw puzzle that now connects all of those legs that have up until now been not connected. So really big for us, really big for DeKalb, and frankly, really big for economic development, because now our businesses in DeKalb are going to be able to access other parts of the region more easily. Whether your trip originates in DeKalb and you go outbound, or we have folks coming into DeKalb for a work center, this is huge for us. So I'm not going to bore you with the details, but the project is going to be built by the Department of Transportation in several different segments. But for the purposes of what you need to remember, from I-285 on the east side over at Henderson all the way to I-285 Paces Ferry over in Cobb. So this is going to be super, super impactful. And all of us at the CIDs in DeKalb and your cities and your counties and chambers, we're all paying a lot of attention to the green dots and the yellow dots. And that's because that's where the new interchanges could potentially be. You know, when you're talking about how does economic development relate to infrastructure, well, it's where there are going to be potential ramps that are going to be built. Where's new interchanges? Where are new interchanges going to be built? Where could there be a new transit station built as part of this larger multi-billion-dollar project that the state is building for Metro Atlanta? How can DeKalb plug in and make sure that we get our access where we need to so that our businesses can thrive? Okay, so I'm going to work my way down from sort of the largest, most overwhelming mega projects that are happening in our region. I'm going to work my way down now. We started out macro. Now I'm going to go micro. Although this one is not exactly micro, but this is the Transform 285 at 400 project. This is the project that is happening right now. This is the interchange. So what you see is a rendering of what it's going to look like when it's done. If you've been out there lately, you know that it is a snarled construction site. It's an active construction site. I tell people, if there has been any blessing of COVID whatsoever, it's the fact that big, large construction projects like this could continue to move forward at a time when there was no traffic on the road. I mean, if anyone would have told me 3 years ago that the department's crews, that their contractor would have been able to close down lanes on the middle of I-285, like at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, I would have said you were crazy. We would have had a revolution on our hands. But as it was with COVID, provided some opportunities for the contractor to close down some lanes and get some work done because there was no traffic on the road. So I won't bore you with the details, but you see some pictures of construction. On the bottom, these were taken in April, so these were taken very, very recently. There's a series of new bridges. I want to say there's 21 bridges that are being built as part of this project. It's just completely amazing. These are two that we just wanted to show you because they're specifically affecting DeKalb. This is Ashford Dunwoody Road. One actually just opened. The bottom left picture, if you can sort of make out, that's the Ravinia buildings in the back, and that is the lane. That is a brand new bridge from Ashford Dunwoody Road that merges onto I-285 eastbound. So, like if you were in Perimeter and you were going over to Cobb, that's the way that you would go, and that just opened up. So that was pretty exciting. We often get asked, when is it going to be done? When is the whole thing going to be done? So as of right now, the timeline is for the contractor to have it open to vehicles by December of this year. So by December of 2021, we're cautiously optimistic that will happen. But of course, open to vehicles still means that there will be a lot of work still left to do outside of the vehicular lanes. And the CID is working very closely with the contractor and the Department of Transportation on all of that. And if you have any questions about the schedule, please feel free to reach out. We have an email blast that we send every Friday afternoon. They used to be very popular when everybody was in the office every day before COVID. That kind of gives our commuters in Perimeter, a heads up on what things are going to be closed this weekend. So we're super excited about this. And this is very, very important in terms of economic development in DeKalb. This is super important because this, again, will really, really help open up access from other parts of the Metro Atlanta region to DeKalb. Cobb, Fulton, everything sort of west of here is critically important. And as we have more and more freight and logistics moving through DeKalb, from the Port of Savannah up through DeKalb County and onto the interstate system, having this interchange work better is helpful to all of us. Okay, so let's see, I just mentioned this. This is the Ashford Dunwoody westbound on-ramp, the little yellow arrow that you see on the bottom. That's the bridge that I just mentioned. It's open now. The graphic on the top, which has those lanes in purple, that is a clip from a GDOT video that's available on YouTube of the new managed lanes. So if you can just sort of use that to visualize a minute what like Ashford, Dunwoody, and 285 will look like one day when the department has constructed these new elevated toll lanes that go up above Ashford Dunwoody Road. Pretty interesting to look at. Another question we get asked a lot is, how much are things going to improve? All these projects are so expensive. What difference does it really make? And so I wanted to show this slide quickly, just so that you can sort of get a feel for what this means for a person commuting through the interchange. The department has estimated that once the interchange is completed, it should save the average commuter approximately 30 minutes, a 30-minute decrease in their overall travel time through that interchange, which is fairly significant. If you live in one part of the region and you're trying to get to another part of the region, I mean, we all know that 30 minutes is a big deal in Metro Atlanta traffic. So this is a slide we share a lot. Okay, so now I've finished talking about the bigger, larger projects that are being built by the State Department of Transportation. Now I want to take a little bit of a dive into what we are doing. So here at the Perimeter CID, what are we using our funds locally for? We've invested in those larger projects. We invested $10 million in the interchange project with GDOT, and we'll be investing in the other projects over time. But these are some of the projects that I'm going to run through are ones that we're doing here locally, because we really do have faith in GDOT's plan to kind of improve the interstate system. But that doesn't change the fact that we need to fix our own local roads so that our business owners and commuters inside the perimeter market can get to the interstates. If the interstates are flowing freely, it doesn't help if you're still stuck in local traffic on the local roads. So we've invested a lot of time and money in coming up with a master plan. We have a master plan of projects at the CID. And we have a project list we have about 67 projects on our capital project list that we are slowly ticking off. We're slowly working our way through. And we believe that each of them are different. Each of them are complicated. Each of them are different funding sources for each one, different partners for each one. But we believe that each one is going to help make our own local grid better so that our commuters can get off the local grid to access the interstate regional grid more quickly. This one is Ashford Dunwoody Road at I-285 eastbound. So if you were leaving Perimeter and headed back east to Gwinnett or DeKalb, this is the on-ramp to 285, and the CID has engaged a designer, and we've gotten GDOT approvals. We've secured $2 million in GDOT funding to construct this, and it will be to add in the yellow box and that yellow circle area. There's a stacking problem where cars are stacked to get onto I-285 in the afternoons, and so we're going to improve that neck right there. We're going to widen it so that there's more room for people to get on as they enter the interstate system, so the cars won't be backed up along Ashford Dunwoody Road. Hoping to bid this one out in the first quarter of next year is our schedule for right now. This is another one we're working on. This is Perimeter Center Parkway at I-285. The purple lanes, again, are future lanes to be built from the managed lane system along I-285 up to Perimeter Center Parkway. So basically, if you're familiar with that area, right now, Perimeter Center Parkway is just an overpass. It is just a bridge, just an overpass. It was built by DeKalb County Public Works about 8 to 10 years ago. And right now, what we are advocating for with the state DOT is to make it into an interchange as opposed to just being an overpass. So those are the purple lanes that you see. Let's see. This is one of the last things I'm going to say about the top end transit study, but it's important to mention because this is super important, in my opinion, for economic development in DeKalb County right now. As part of the larger 285 top end elevated toll lane system that is being built, there is a very strong group of mayors and CIDs along the top end of 285 that is actively studying and designing and advocating for a transit system to be built in those lanes. So from you know, you can, I'm not sure if you can really make out from these yellow circles, but basically from like the North Lake La Vista Road area along the top end of 285 through Spaghetti Junction, Perimeter, Brave Stadium, all the way over to Smyrna in the Cumberland area. There's 7 mayors of 7 cities that are involved, in Fulton, Cobb, and DeKalb, 4 CIDs that are involved. And we are all advocating that a transit system be built in these lanes, a bus rapid transit system, so that, you know, basically while the state is making this huge investment in these elevated toll lanes, that we could also run a bus rapid transit system in the lanes. So that if you're over in La Vista and you want to go to a Braves game, you can hop on a bus that will take you in the elevated lanes, and you can fly on the lanes over to the Braves Stadium and then get back in a vehicle that is safe and clean and easy to access. We're studying a transit system and also a trail system. So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but there's at least a big active group of folks that are pursuing this. And we are communicating now. You know, we are in an environment now in Washington, D.C., that has really, really made it clear they're going to invest in infrastructure projects. And we have worked very closely with Senator Warnock's office, especially, and also Senator Ossoff's office, and Lucy McBath is our rep here for the Perimeter area. They are all aware of this project and are very aware that it will be a really, really good candidate for federal funding, federal transit funding. So when you watch the news and you hear all these things about the infrastructure package coming out of Washington, D.C., this is exactly the type of thing that could be funded by that type of a package. So we're going to continue to encourage Senator Warnock and Ossoff to keep this in mind as they decide on which transit projects to fund throughout the country. Okay, I'm gonna skip this one actually, because I got 2 more things to hit as I work my way through and talking about the top end program. This is the last thing, and this is really sort of we're just getting started on this, but I just kind of wanted everybody to be aware. In Perimeter, you know, one of the things that the CID has always been, that all CIDs, especially the Perimeter CID, has been very, very good about is paying attention to the aesthetic of the district. You know, I always tell our owners that first and foremost, that the district needs to be clean and safe and easy to access. That's really it. On a base level, if we're covering those 3 things, everything else is extra. And so we try to take any chance we get to piggyback on what our other governmental partners are already doing and make it better. And so this is a perfect example. The Department of Transportation and the county and the cities are all working to build these managed lanes on the top end of 285 and up Georgia 400. And so here at the CID, we said, you know, it would really be a shame if the state built all of those and they took down bridges and they added ramps, and it was not, and we didn't take advantage of the fact to maybe make a little bit of an additional investment to make it better looking. So we've got a study underway now to really sort of take a deep dive and look at all the places along the interstate system that will affect the perimeter market, to see what is going to be affected and how can we maybe invest a little bit more for an aesthetic treatment. When I say aesthetic, I'm talking about lighting or landscaping or decorative stonework, or all the things that we could do to a regular standard government issued bridge or ramp and make it look better. And you've seen these things all over Metro Atlanta region, and frankly all over the country. You know, Encore Parkway up in Alpharetta has some pretty strong aesthetic elements that the CID there paid for. There's a couple of bridges over in Cobb County, Town Center near Kennesaw State University, a couple in Gwinnett, a couple down in Henry County. There's some really cool examples of things out in Texas that people are doing to just make bridges look better. So we're studying that. You know, that is underway right now, but we're kind of asking ourselves, what could we possibly do to make our bridges and interchanges on the interstate look better, so they don't just look like a snarl of concrete, that will really create like a unique aesthetic element as you enter the perimeter market. So I'm going to show you just a couple of slides. These are very much early in progress. We're totally just thinking about them. But these are some of the aesthetic sort of trends and patterns that are showing up in the country that we would be interested in replicating. So if you see, there's a picture of a bridge, the one that you see with, I think it's got eagles on top of it, that's out in Columbus. That's a bridge there that we had pulled some design inspiration from. You see a lot of pictures of greenery. There's a lot of pine trees in the district. Our board of directors really wants to make creative use of lighting. You know, lighting is a lot cheaper than it used to be in terms of LED lighting and what you can do with it. So, you know, the jury is still out on what type of a design we will come up with. And of course, what the Department of Transportation would allow us to do. But I think it's pretty exciting that we're starting to look at this, you know, to sort of create some sort of an aesthetic pattern and like a kit of parts that we can use on all of our bridges that are affected in the district to make them look better and to have a sense of arrival once you enter the perimeter market. Again, how does this relate back to economic development? You know, it's important as you're bringing a prospect in, as the chamber or DeKalb recruits prospects to come move their companies into DeKalb County. You know, as they enter into a place, they have a sense of arrival, that there's something that is unique that the business community has invested in. You know, they know this is a place they may want to grow their business. So it's very important. Okay, I'm going to run through a few of the smaller, now taking you down really micro, some of the smaller just intersection projects that we're doing. And again, you know, these are really important because going back to economic development, prior to COVID, the number one concern we had, at least here in the perimeter market, is traffic and the flow of traffic, how to get people moving so that they're not stuck here, so that we can continue to recruit companies to come here and, you know, help grow the tax base of DeKalb County. So you've got a list of 9 projects in front of you, and I'm not going to bore you with them and go through all of these, but wanted to highlight a couple. So numbers 1 and 2 on the map we have those under construction right now. Number 1, the first one is actually in the city of Dunwoody. It is Perimeter Center West at Perimeter Center Parkway. What we're doing there is taking out some of the planted median to increase turn lane capacity. To help cars flow through there better. Similar thing that we're doing down to intersection number 2, the other one that's in yellow, that is in the city of Brookhaven. We're partnering with them, and that's Perimeter Summit Parkway at Ashford Dunwoody. Similar type of a project, a big planted landscape median that was constructed back in the 90s. That's quite beautiful, but taking out a little bit of that and removing a couple of the trees will help us build more stacking space for people in the left-hand turn lane so that they are not blocking people behind them. So I've got a couple of in-progress pictures. Funny to see nobody on the road during COVID. But again, you know, we really have made a conscious effort at the CID while the district has been quiet and while all of our big corporations have their folks working from home, we really sort of pounced on the opportunity to say, what can we build and get done on the ground while there are no cars on the road? So I'm happy to report these 2 are under construction now. They will be finished by early summer. So when folks re-enter the perimeter market, you know, they're hopefully going to be coming back to a more efficient experience because of these 2 intersections that will be finished, and you can make your turns through there more quickly. You know, one of the things that the CID has always been good at, again, I'm taking you down to the sort of the micro level of what a CID does every day, is the aesthetic treatments that we do. You know, the big, giant, billion-dollar infrastructure projects that we have to work with the folks in DC on are fun, but we can't neglect paying attention to the little things in the district too, like landscaping. Because when you're taking economic development prospects and you're showing them around, if the district does not look clean, then you're already on your back foot. So we spend a lot of time and money maintaining landscaping in medians throughout the perimeter district. And this is just an example of a couple of them. Drew Long, who is on our staff, does a really fantastic job of getting out there, monitoring this on a weekly basis, on a seasonal basis. You know, we change it up with this as the seasons come and go. We like to make sure to have color out there in the spring, get things replanted in the winter. Believe it or not, we spend a lot of time on trash pickup and garbage pickup. You know, I always like to tell people, if somebody throws a beer can out of their car window on a Saturday night, hopefully by Monday morning, we've got crews out there that are picking it up, because you can't bring an economic development prospect into a business market and expect, if they see trash everywhere, that they're going to be impressed. They will not. Another thing that we, you know, as just a funny note, we spend a lot, a lot of my CID colleagues in other parts of the county, we sort of laugh about the trash that we pick up: shopping carts, tires, baby dolls. There's no shortage of the things that we're always out there finding, and we're removing them. You know, often sort of invisibly, we have our folks out there cleaning it up, but it makes a huge difference. Some of the other elements of the CID Helps Fund are these decorative hardscape elements that you see through the district. These require a lot of maintenance. The perimeter CID has been constructing crosswalks and putting in stacked stone or field stone, like benches and retaining walls. They've been doing this since the early 2000s. And it's great, but it requires a lot of maintenance. You know, this is no different than something maybe at your own personal home. When you install these things after 10 or 15 years, they have to be replaced. They have to be fixed. Technology has changed a lot. When the CID first started installing, I think one of the first decorative paved crosswalks was installed in the perimeter CID, maybe like in 2003 or 2004. And, you know, back then it doesn't seem like that long ago to me, but back then they would actually use brick pavers. They would actually put down brick pavers in the middle of the road, and they looked great, and they were bright red, and they looked fantastic for about 6 months, until semi trucks started driving over them, and they would get chipped up. The color would start to fade, and by about 2 years later, you had something that looked pretty bad, you know, that required replacement, which was incredibly expensive. So now, if you fast forward to today, we have paint technologies and concrete staining technologies that are much better. So what you see on the top, you see a couple of sort of older places of the CID, and on the bottom, you see a couple of the newer spots, like the one on the left was just finished within the last year. This is a hawk signal, which is a big crosswalk that runs from the new State Farm campus in DeKalb in the city of Dunwoody over to the mall. You can see the Nordstrom parking deck there. So we did that, so now the people can say, from the huge campus there, the State Farm campus at Park Place, people can actually safely walk across the street. There's a hawk signal. They can push the button. That is a paint. Those are not brick pavers. That's a paint coating that's sprayed on the asphalt that will last for a really, really long time. There's similar treatments like this in other parts of DeKalb and Emory. So we are constantly upgrading our technology so that the materials that we are using are the newest and the latest and greatest, and hopefully will require less maintenance. A couple of other examples. I wanted to show you this one picture of the poles. You know, talking about things that require maintenance. This little ped pole that you see here on the right. You know, the CID over the last 20 years, the perimeter CID has invested millions in these poles, these green poles all over the district. Of course, you know, after 10 or 15 years, they start to look a little less fresh than they did when you first put them in. So we've worked really hard to inventory all those poles throughout the district and find the ones that are faded and dull and rusted and spruce them up. So you can see on the right, that's an example of a pole that has now been treated with a powder coat of new paint. And we've got crews that are actively doing that all the time. And those skirts are made out of cast iron. So it's not exactly like you can just pop it off and paint it. It requires a team of men to pull that thing off and load it in the truck. It's quite a process, but we have felt that it was important to keep everything looking fresh, so we've gone to that trouble. Okay, traffic officers, just wanted to touch on this quickly. Another program that the Perimeter CID has funded for many, many years is traffic officer program. So we hire off-duty police officers from City of Dunwoody squad, City of Brookhaven and the city of Sandy Springs, we pay them out of our own pocket. We pay them to go direct traffic every afternoon at these interchanges where you see the stars. And we have adjusted this program. Obviously, with COVID, we had to make some decisions. Like everyone else, we had to make some decisions very, very quickly. So we put the program on hiatus for a long time. We just brought it back this week. We are starting to see a big increase in traffic in the district. Folks are coming back. Our companies are coming back. So we've engaged the traffic officers to come back. The beauty of a program like this is we can sort of wean it on and off as needed. We can flip the switch on or off. We fund it entirely. We spend over $1 million every year just on these traffic officers. So it's a big expense, but it's also very needed. So we've got 14 officers out now in the district. That will likely adjust again. We spend a lot of time thinking about what's going to happen over the next few months. We're always sort of forward looking. School is going to end in a couple of weeks. That is always an adjustment in traffic in the market. Summertime will begin. We will likely have to adjust our officers to summertime hours. We're constantly communicating with our property managers, and we're watching the traffic data. It seems like now with COVID, everybody used to sort of enter the market around 8 a.m. and exit the market around 5 p.m. That's not really the case right now. We're noticing with COVID, people our peak times are tending to be like at 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. in the morning for the influx, and for the outflow, more like a 3 or 3:30 p.m., which is very interesting. So maybe 3 o'clock is the new rush hour. But we're monitoring that and adjusting as needed. Of course, as the summer moves on, we will also be getting closer to the big interchange at 285 and 400 getting finished. So traffic will change likely sort of all over again in the fall when people come back to work full force and they're vaccinated, and will be sort of in the final throes of the last quarter of construction for the interchange. So this is sort of a moving target all of the time, but it's something we monitor on a weekly basis. Okay, I wanted to shift quickly to one of the organizations that we run under the CID umbrella. That's just frankly a lot of fun, and it kind of provides a little bit of a softer side. We've got all the hard side, the construction projects, and the big gigantic infrastructure projects. Sort of the softer side of what we do is we operate a transportation management association. So we apply for funding from the Atlanta Regional Commission. Every 2 years, we're on a 2-year grant cycle. To get funding to run this TMA, our brand here is Perimeter Connects. In other markets, you'll hear it called different things. In Buckhead, their program is called Livable Buckhead, and in Cumberland, it's called something different that I can't even remember. The Midtown Alliance is an example of this. So here in Perimeter, we call it Perimeter Connects. And we do a litany of things. This is our boots on the ground that are directly communicating with the employees and the property managers in our district. Johan Weber is our manager of that. And, Johan has the ability to go in and provide telework resources to our companies. It's funny, we sort of joke in the office because our Perimeter Connect staff was sort of trying to evangelize the benefits of telework before telework was cool. Because we used to spend a lot of time talking to HR managers at the big companies in our district about how offering telework to their employees could help with morale and, more importantly, help with traffic reduction. Now COVID has forced a lot of us into those patterns, which has been helpful. But we've been talking about telework for many, many years. So the goal of this program is really to provide a resource for employees to sort of manage the consumer experience. When you're coming into the district, what does it feel like when you're coming here? How do you get here? We can sell MARTA passes. We have the ability to sell discounted MARTA and express commuter bus passes to any employee who works in the district. We work with hotels and restaurants on how they are getting their employees, some of whom are transit dependent, How do they get their employees into the district? Even at a time when gas prices tend to be high, and people choose to not drive their car and to take transit. So we're sort of like a concierge, and we can provide your employees at your company with resources on how to get here for work and how to get home. We also are doing some fun things. I really mentioned that we've got to focus on taking advantage of this time during COVID, when the market has been quiet. So our construction side of the house has been very, very busy improving the intersections. Our Perimeter Connect side of the house has been very busy sprucing up our MARTA stations when the MARTA stations were empty. So this picture that's in the bottom left-hand corner is an example of the first time we've done this sort of MARTA station spruce up. And we worked with MARTA, worked with the city of Dunwoody on this. It's been really exciting. Actually, we did power washing of the whole station, which it needed. We've done a lot of power washing in the last 3 years. I'm a big fan of power washing. So we did a lot of power washing of all the surfaces at the Dunwoody MARTA station. We installed these signs that you can see, the shuttle route signs, to help direct people. When you get off of the train, you're trying to find a shuttle. There's 11 private shuttles that are operating in the perimeter market. It's hard to navigate. So we provided some signage. We also put some decals, these vinyl decals that you see. These have been posted on the sidewalk surfaces all over the station. We use the same company that a lot of the in-town MARTA stations did this during the Super Bowl, so that folks that are brand new to Atlanta and had no idea where they were going, they could just look down at the decals and see where they're walking. So those have been installed. And then most importantly, we engaged an artist for the first mural in Perimeter. This is the first of what I hope will be, let me see if I can change this. Here we go. The first of what I truly hope will be many murals here in the Perimeter market. So we engaged Nika King, who's I am not that well versed in the arts community, but now I am. And Nika is pretty well known in the arts community. She has several murals throughout Atlanta. Most of her work is in town. So we engaged Nika to come do this at the Dunwoody MARTA station. These were just like dark, dingy, blank concrete walls. There's nothing on them. And so this was like by far and away one of the least expensive projects that we've worked on this year. When we're talking about these massive elevated toll lanes and billions of dollars of infrastructure, by contrast, this was obviously much less expensive, but I think has been super impactful. Nika did a great job. We had a committee. We worked with the Spruill Arts Center, which is a local arts group, and the MARTA Artbound program to help solicit the artist, and procure her work and come up with something that we thought was reflective of the new perimeter market. And I'm super excited about it. This is just finishing up, and we'll hopefully have the ribbon cutting on it soon. And also working on some decorative lighting here. So, the idea is really when folks come back to the district, they are going to be met with hopefully a perimeter market that is cleaner and safer and more attractive and more efficient to drive around. Okay, I've only got a couple of slides left here because I know we're kind of getting short on time. So last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit I've talked about the interstates and transit and trains and buses and cars and art. And now I just kind of wanted to talk about people getting around on foot. So, the Atlanta Beltline has made trails very sexy. So for the rest of us in the region who are looking at building out our trail system, I think we can absolutely thank the Beltline for putting the raising the importance of trails on all of our radar screens for economic development, because I think we can see that when a community has a robust trail system, it's good for economic development. If you have followed any of the big economic development victories over the last few years, what's happening with Google in town, or what's happening with Facebook wanting to build out all those acres on the Beltline frontage, it is very, very clear that these big employers that are going to bring big, good jobs to our region and to DeKalb County, trail systems are important to them. Transit is important to them. And trails are very, very important to them. So for DeKalb to be competitive, if we want our community to be competitive with Cobb and Gwinnett and North Fulton and Henry and Clayton and all these other counties, we also have to have a robust trail system that we can show to investors and prospects when they come to visit us. So here, Perimeter, this is sort of the bones of what we're putting together. It's not perfect yet, and this visual is not perfect, but it's coming together. And so we've got, I'm sure you probably may not even be able to see all of these different colors, but every different color represents a different project that is part of a larger network that is eventually coming together that will connect the Perimeter Market to Buckhead through Path 400, which is the red line at the very, very bottom. Path 400, of course, runs along Georgia 400 into Buckhead. And then that runs eventually to the Beltline. So one of our sort of large overarching goals is to get the Perimeter Market connected by way of trails to the Buckhead Market, to the Beltline, to other parts of DeKalb, and over to Cobb and to their trail system in the Cumberland area where the Brave Stadium is. So not exactly sure how we're going to accomplish all of those legs yet. Some of them are funded, some of them are not funded. They're all in various stages of design. But we're pretty excited about it. And it's one of the things that our board is very, very focused on. As an example, the purple line, probably the closest that will be coming to fruition soon, is the purple line. And that is a trail system along Ashford-Dunwoody Road in front of Perimeter Mall. So if you're familiar with Perimeter Mall right now, there is a sidewalk in front of the mall. It's narrow. It's not ideal. There's no landscaping there. If you were pushing a baby stroller, you may not feel the safest walking there because it's not very wide. It's not separated from the traffic. And what we're going to do is build a big, large barrier separated trail with bike lanes, so that the pedestrian experience can be very, very comfortable and, most importantly, very, very safe. Here's that trail. Here's the trail that I was talking about. It's divided into two segments. Phase one is in front of the mall. There's only one property owner, and it's Perimeter Mall. We're working with them now to obtain that right of way. Phase two is from the mall north to Mount Vernon, kind of in front of the new Dunwoody City Hall, if you're familiar with that area. So that's it. This is a look out. So pulling the microscope back a little bit. That's my alarm that I set for myself. So I'm going to stop talking. But this is how we envision that we can get Perimeter, the blue, which is our trail system. This is how we envision that we could get our trail system eventually connected down to the Beltline. So I'm going to, with that, so Jeff and Yolanda, I'm going to stop. Let's see if I can figure out how to stop sharing my screen. And Jeff, I know that was a lot of information, but I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you. That was really good. And it gives us really good context when we drive by those locations also. So thank you. There were a couple of quick questions. One is, are there any plans to create an interchange for I-20 going east by I-285? I guess that's on the southeast side of town.
Yes, I think this is the question. So I-20 at I-285, like that right? There's currently an interchange there, but yes, that is on the bigger, larger plan to be improved. Okay. And I don't have that, but it should be on the GDOT website. That is going to go from what is now just a regular interchange to like a beefed up Spaghetti Junction style massive interchange.
Okay, that's good. It's good to know because I use that every day. So.
Good.
But that question wasn't posed by me. And then there's another question that says, has a consideration been made to closing the Riverside Drive exit, since it's basically only a residential access point on the top end of 285?
Well, that's a very good question. I don't know. I truly do not know the answer to that. I know in that particular part of town a lot. When they were talking about where to put managed lane intersections, there was a lot of conversation about should that remain a regular interchange or should it become like a managed lane interchange? Currently, it's not slated for one right now, but I have not ever heard of anybody talking about closing it.
Gotcha. All right, those were the only two questions. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll sign off. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to check out our website or give me a call. And look forward to working with both of you and your committees at the chamber going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anne, for taking time out of your schedule to join us today. This was great information. It helps me answer my family's questions about the construction all around Perimeter Mall. So we want to thank our sponsors, Kaiser Permanente, AT&T, and Georgia Power once again for helping us make this event a success. We invite all of you to join us next Tuesday, May 25th, for our next virtual event, the Issue Insights legislative event that we are co-hosting with the Dunwoody Perimeter Chamber of Commerce. Thanks to all of you for attending today and supporting the Chamber and our community. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you and bye-bye.